Hello, my friend, and welcome to the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today, we have Marshawn Evans Daniels. She is a repeat guest from many years ago. I've known her for several years, met her through the Infusionsoft community. She is an attorney, although she doesn't practice anymore, but she was a contestant, and I think second runner-up on the Miss America pageant. She was a contestant on Donald Trump's The Apprentice. But she is an author. She's come out with another book. She is a godly woman. She is newly married, we'll talk about. She is inspiring women and men through her various programs that we get into. But you'll hear her story on how she got started, how things have evolved for her, and how she overcame all the obstacles that were put in her way to achieve a lot of big things, and how she's doing that to help even more people achieve even bigger things as well. One day, believe it or not, I will get through that book, The Ask Method. Not only get through it, but implement everything. I picked a tough one to do with everything going on right now, plus getting sick. I don't know what's going on with this crud going around. It's not the flu for me, fortunately, but man, over a week I was sick, and I don't get sick like that. 5 days antibiotics, hacking, coughing, no bueno. But the show still goes on. I was managed to get this recorded. Then I was at Traffic and Conversion Summit. Just got back from that. That's the nice thing about living close to San Diego. A lot of conferences there. It's my third year getting a free ticket. Pays to know people. It's like a reunion. But interesting thing, though, that I got out of that. Number one is actually driving down, sitting in traffic, watching what was trending on Monday morning. And they were talking about how to have a conversation. The conversation is the new close. And I was like, okay, I'm glad I didn't hustle down to get there for that opening. The conversation has always been the close. So that's interesting. But secondly, a lot of people that are well-connected, people that are experienced with internet marketing, with social media marketing, that run real businesses, that are making real money, at least $250,000 and above. And I know several are making $400,000 and above. They are burned out on social media. It was interesting. One said she just wants to quit Facebook altogether. And it's interesting seeing how times are changing, how social media, you've probably unfriended people, you've probably blocked people, certainly unfollowed at a minimum people that maybe you can't quite unfriend and block, but you just don't need to hear their stuff, right? So we're becoming these silos, these islands, really isolating ourselves. And so how is that going to impact your business? Are you trying to reach the people that may be turned off like that? Are you looking at other areas? Because yesterday I was able to sit in on a little informal group there were 10 of us, all internet marketers, all entrepreneurs, but these were some big time guys. I mean, people managing 7-figure ad budgets, 7 figures per month. I mean, some big guys. And I just took a lot of notes. And something that was interesting was their discussion about how Google is almost the forgotten network now. So there's some opportunity there. You know, you always talk about zigging when the competition zags. Well, everybody is zagging towards Facebook. Their prices have gone up. They've admitted that they are reducing their inventory because they want to create a more pleasant experience online. So Facebook's backing up what my friends who are connected in the industry are telling me, than those that spend money on ads to drive traffic, which is a viable resource. They're telling me that there's more options on Google right now. So be listening, right? Look around. Don't be afraid to test new things. If everybody's talking about something, it's time that you start looking for something else. And I think that's happening right now. I know it is in social media in general. I know it is especially with Facebook. So look around. All right. So that's my words of wisdom for you now. As always, be sure to check out the Make Every Sale program, makeeverysale.com. I'm making a change to that. It's going to be on demand. And then the Inner Circle has been launched. But check out that, makeeverysale.com. Now let's bring on our guest. Welcome back, Marshawn Evans Daniels. I understand the first time you came on my podcast, it was so profound. It helped you get married because you used to be just little old Marshawn Evans, and now I got to add a Daniels to that, huh? Tell us about that.
Not just a Daniels, but I'm married to a man named Jack Daniels. Now, that could have only happened by, I don't know what you just sipped in your cup right there, but we'll just leave that alone.
No comment. I can neither confirm nor deny. So you are back again. I'm glad to have you. You have a new book out, Believe Bigger, Discover the Path to Your Life Purpose. We're recording this as you are leading a conference. Now, we all know you were a contestant in the Miss America pageant, right?
That's true.
And they throw tough questions. You're an attorney. You're approved to present before the Supreme Court.
That's right.
So that means you can handle tough questions. So that's why I don't have any sympathy on you.
Bring it.
Is it true that you just yesterday, A, had on 6-inch heels, and B, took them off to speak to your people with 3 pairs of socks on?
3 pairs of socks on and tennis shoes. That's actually with just socks on because I didn't have time to leave the seminar to go upstairs to get my tennis shoes. But yes, the funny thing is I love working from home, and I realized that my mind and clearly my feet and legs are now conditioned to work in a t-shirt and jeans every day. But some part of me feels like when I'm in front of an audience, I'm much more casual than I used to be. It's funny, we are leading a retreat right now, and I showed some original videos so they could see how I got started versus the before and the after. And this was pre-HD, so it's all fuzzy video and all of that. And I'm wearing a suit, and my husband says, "Y'all, she's wearing a suit." And it's funny now, I don't wear suits. And clearly yesterday I had an understanding that I have completely identified with the denim entrepreneur lifestyle. And so today I decided to go all in start with t-shirts, start with jeans. The jeans may or may not have holes in them. And I like just that being able, when you write your own check, you have your own choices, and people care about the information more than they do which shoes you have on. Now, if I could, I would have rocked the heels again today, but I want to be comfortable. And so
Amen.
It is true. It is true. It is true. I cannot deny.
So you talk about in this book, it's kind of like the 5 love languages, right? You're helping people with the purpose map, because you're right. Most people don't know where they're going. They don't know where they are.
Yeah.
How do we juggle that? How do we juggle being comfortable, right? Showing up in jeans because we're comfortable versus maybe dressing the part others expect of us. How do you balance personal expression and freedom versus giving the world what they think you need to look like? Because in a way, don't we sometimes, we kind of have to look the part to at least build the trust and then kind of let our hair down?
Yeah. So I think that, my background is in branding. So I used to be at a big law firm, worked a nice job, actually a very prestigious job, one of the biggest law firms in the country. Difficult job to get, paid very well. I'm 25 years old, and everything seems to be going really, really well. I had been on The Apprentice, and this is my first job out of law school. So I had to dress the part, one, to get the interview, but I was trying to create the impression that was needed to be chosen. And so I think, it depends on what season you're at in your life. I could play the game very well. I know how to dress the part, act the part. I remember being in law school, and one of my roommates when I lived in DC was a lawyer at the time. And she said, you remind me of someone, once you get to a law firm, you're going to climb very quickly. You're probably going to make partner before everybody else. And you're going to learn very quickly how to navigate those waters. So while I was at my law firm, I only stayed a year and a half. It only took a few months before I was getting a little bit restless of being in that environment of having to play the game, having to jump through the hoops, having to wear the right suit, but also getting up early and then not getting back home until night. So my new townhouse, and I'm so excited to have my first spot that I bought and I owned as this young lawyer. I don't even get to really experience, and I don't get to hang out because I'm working all the time building this other vision for my employer. And so there are choices that we make. And there are other people, though, who are in my exact position who were in it to win it at that environment. They wanted to climb the top of the corporate ladder. And to me, what was happening, that wrestling was really purpose speaking, saying this is just not where you belong. There's nothing wrong about where you are. And sometimes our successes can become our comfort zones. And it doesn't mean that, I think sometimes we look at the word comfort and think that it means it's easy or that we're lazy. That's not necessarily true. It's, are you aligned with where you're supposed to be? So I left my law firm. I ended up using that restlessness and following it into the world of professional sports, which I had no experience in. Started a professional sports agency managing pro athletes in the NFL and the NBA. And my first client was the highest paid defensive end in the NFL. He had just signed a $62 million 7-year deal. So, okay, purpose is, I wouldn't say it was my purpose. It was more so, I can look back at it now, but at the time, I just didn't like where I was. I think that's the start of the purpose awakening for a lot of people. It's restlessness. It's feeling like I'm not exactly where I'm supposed to be. You're getting mad at your employer. You're blaming the man for keeping you down, not maximizing your potential, not understanding how great you are. But those are labor pains. That's designed to actually get you out of where you are to get you into someplace better. And I loved being my own boss. I had been my own boss before. I paid my way through law school teaching public speaking. So I was used to that freedom. So when I started my sports agency, I have this great new client that helped me get other clients. The agency grew to be the fastest growing women-owned sports agency in a year. I did that for 3 years, more NFL players, more NBA players. It's wonderful to sit on the 50-yard line. It's wonderful to have tickets to games and to have a very prestigious career. And I started feeling this restlessness again. Only now I'm engaged. I'm about to get married. I'm supposed to move to Chicago to be a wife and also become a bonus mom to 3 kiddos. And I've got this sports agency. I had this book out called Skirts in the Boardroom. And I started feeling this restlessness again that was similar to being in the law firm, but only I liked what I was doing. So sometimes you're in the comfort zone and you love your career. Sometimes you hate your job. And sometimes you actually like your job, but you know that you're still supposed to make a change. And to me, in both situations, that's purpose speaking. And that's the agitation. I call it in my book, the tug. And so I ended up getting ready to get married. And 6 days before my wedding, I discovered that my fiance was unfaithful. I don't know if you've had a lot of people come on the Sales Whisperer and talk about cheating. But that was what I call a split rock moment. And it kind of caught my attention in such a way that it wasn't a professional awakening that took me into the business that I have now. It was a personal one. And I think a lot of times in business, we don't talk about how our personal life is one of the ways that we get directed into the master mission for all of our life. And so I'll stop there because I'm just kind of going and going and going. But my comfort zone was when I was at this job, but I was climbing the success ladder and I still felt like I wasn't where I belonged. Then I was doing what I wanted to do. And then I feel like purpose still swept in, agitated me, feeling uncomfortable, not knowing exactly what to do. But then my personal life fell apart. And then I had to get clear. I had to get still. And I had to say, what could be in store for me? Because I don't want to end up here again. I want to change lives. I want to make a difference. I want to make a lot of money too. But I got to be well. How do I figure out my next step?
So, a lot of times the emphasis here, the guests that I have is on entrepreneurship. But, we talk about sales and maybe I'm not doing justice to the people that are employees. Is it possible, to thrive where you are? And maybe you're in this quote unquote comfort zone, So you can focus maybe on the side on something bigger. Maybe it gives you the time and the freedom to work on a charity or support your church or something like that. I mean, do you help people find that balance between thriving as an employee versus leaving it all behind to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So the framework behind why I decided to write Believe Bigger in this time is because I realized in what I do now as a coach, running one of the largest, probably the largest, we think, the largest coaching company for women of faith in the country. Building this now, what is from scratch. I didn't know how I was going to pay my bills when I started this thing, but now running a multi-million-dollar company. What I discovered is that all of us are to go through these 5 stages of purpose in our life. Most people will never make it out of stage 2. And so your purpose really is not about your career or your job or how you make a paycheck, because your purpose isn't something that people can actually pay you for. It's who you are. You might have something that you want to do, a specific way that you want to impact and change lives. And your purpose is really more about your personality. It's about how you show up. It's about how you improve the lives of others by being, by the nature of who you are and what you do. And a lot of times we confuse this stuff together. So one of the framework that I write about is this thing called the purpose map. And the way I discovered it was somebody who was in corporate America who was unsatisfied with their job. She worked for Home Depot, big company. She was a C-suite, one of the top executives at the firm. And one of my clients at the time was Delta Airlines. And we were both at this Delta Airlines mixer living in Atlanta. Got these 2 giants here in Atlanta, Home Depot and Delta. And those were the kinds of clients that I had. So I was at this mixer, and she was explaining to me that she was getting ready to transition out of her job, that she wanted to go somewhere else, but she didn't know what she wanted to do exactly. So I pulled out a napkin. I flipped it over and I said, one of the things I found as a coach is that there are these 5 stages of leadership, of influence, and purpose, and I want to draw them for you. So I drew out stage 1. I drew a box, and in the first box I wrote discover. And I was like, this is where we learn the rules of life, the do's and don'ts, who we should be, who we shouldn't be. And all of us are, that's where we start in life. And in stage 2 is talent. This is where we climb the mountains of success. And there's 5 mountains that we tend to climb, be it relationships, being a wife or being a husband, being a mom or being a dad, in terms of being a parent. It could be the mountain of career success, money mountain. It could be fixing things or even making a difference. Altruism can become a mountain that you climb. But at some point, you're going to get to the top of that mountain in stage 2, in the talent stage, and it's going to be unsatisfying. You're going to feel restless. And that's where I was when I was at my law firm. That's where a lot of people are right now. It doesn't mean that you need to immediately quit your job and just go and start something new, but you need to know that there is something beyond this success mountain that you've been climbing that you're built for. You don't know when it's time for you to step into it. But I think if we reconditioned our minds to know that one day there's going to be something greater that I'm going to be asked to do, but I need to be really good at what I do now and get the skills and so we talked about the talent stage. And I said in stage 3, there's the gap. This is when you're in the middle. So she's like, I feel like I'm in the middle. And the gap is when you're kind of in the wilderness between your Egypt and your promised land. You're not where you were, but you're not quite where you're going. And this is where the majority of entrepreneurs who are getting started are, or those who are established who are going to the next level are. They feel like they're in this transitional space in the gap. That's stage 3. Stage 4 is where we really want to be, which is the gift stage. This is where we find out what I call our superpowers and our gifts that are different than our talent. So a talent for me could have been being a lawyer because I was good at it. I could play the game. I got the job. I had 20 job offers. I could have worked anywhere I wanted in the country. Talent for me was there, but was it fulfilling? So my gifts, what I discovered was I'm gifted at messaging. When I represented athletes, I branded their charities. One of my clients, Thomas Davis, he still plays for the Carolina Panthers. And I created his foundation. It's called the Defending Dreams Foundation. Well, just 2 years ago at the Super Bowl, he won Walter Payton Man of the Year. And so it was cool to see him standing on stage with the branding that I created from years ago. Now, I didn't know then what I know now, but while I was in the Gap and I started my sports agency, I was learning my new gifts. I thought I was starting a business. I was being trained in I was developing my gifts. That's why it's important to hire coaches like US. That's why what we do is we help people who are in the Gap develop their abilities and their skills and learn gifts about marketing and about business, about sales, about strategy that they didn't know they had. And so that they can operate in this stage 4 of what is their unique sweet spot. So I showed her that one. And the last thing I draw this 5th box, and the 5th box is called influence. And influence is what we're built for. This is our assignment. This is what where we're supposed to help lead others. And I look at it as like your promised land. And so for me, all of us who are entrepreneurs, all of us who feel like we're called to lead in some way, the question isn't, Simon Sinek says, start with why. Transformational book. Soon as that book came out, and this was years ago, I was like, really want to write the answer to Simon. And it would be start with where. If we knew from the beginning that we're supposed to know that there is a where in store for us. It's not whether we're called to lead, it's where are we called to lead. Then you can look back at this purpose map. You can look back at your path and say, wow, from the beginning, I was trying to lead, but then the rules told me that I shouldn't do that I should go and get a check with benefits, or that I should just get a job, and I was conditioned this way. And then in stage 2, okay, well, maybe I wasn't always supposed to stay in that job anyway, but I needed to learn some skills. Just like being in the military, like you are going through basic training so that you can become good, so that one day you can lead and train other people who come up behind you on how to be good at what they do. But we don't learn it that way. So we think that something is wrong with us when we want to do something greater. So that's how I first wrote out this purpose map. I drew it on a napkin. I've since drawn it in conferences, big events that we host with 500 people in the room. And that's what I've now put into this book, Believe Bigger, that walks you through these 5 stages of influence so you can figure out which purpose stage you are in. And so that's really, to me, when I meet somebody who's wrestling at their job, I'm like, look, be good at what you do. Develop the skill sets now, because you don't know exactly how, but they will be needed later.
Yeah, I'm glad you ended with that, because I tell people all the time, blossom where you're planted.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we've all worked for people that we didn't like, but I think people use it as an excuse to goof off.
Good point.
Right? My boss doesn't like me. My boss is a jerk. They don't understand. They're not using my talents to the fullest. So, I'm just going to I'll show them, right? I'm going to steal paper clips and take a longer lunch.
Yeah.
Instead of, you're like with the athletes, right? If one of your clients wanted to get traded, would you ever advise them? Yeah, just sit out. Tell them you got a bad knee and, don't practice very hard. Or would you say, go have the best year of your life?
Right.
Then you can negotiate from a position of strength, right? And I think a lot of times, too, you may find out you like where you are. If you really gave,
you gave it everything,
your boss might all of a sudden become really nice. Man, they're thanking me all the time. I win all these awards. I got a front row parking spot because I'm an employee of the quarter.
Yeah.
How come we don't do that? How come we don't work that way?
So it's like, I think you've got to grow where you're planted, but you've got to go when you're directed at the same time, and knowing the balance, but it's how you leave.
Right.
Because at the end of it, and here's the thing, sometimes we leave things prematurely and we step into something and we're underdeveloped. Like someone who says, I'm ready to start, coach, and you're really not. And you think you are. And there's a tremendous, people put all this on the millennials. I'm like, no, it's an epidemic in general of entitlement. I should have this, because we see now with social media, we see success and it looks easy because it's well branded. And so people think, well, I should have this. I should. The entitlement is what's going to do you in when you try to start your own business, because the type of employee that you were is the type of employee that you will attract into your life. because you can only attract who you are. So you can't ask for what you have never given and what you've never done. Now, I won't say that's a universal principle in every scenario. Sometimes you're excellent at what you do and you just hired the wrong person. It happens. But sometimes it is a sign that maybe you're reaping what you've sown. And as an employer, I know in 2015, right before we took a sabbatical, we hired 56 different vendors. And that also includes our employees. So we had employees and vendors, different people who got checks from our company. And we counted it up. We looked at it. We were doing our end of the year review. And I have a different perspective. There are things that I would do differently during the time that I was working at a job. Now, I think that what I would change the most was my attitude. My attitude, because I think we've been conditioned to blame our employer. And at the end of the day, getting a check is a privilege. Having a job is a privilege. And so I talk about that a lot now as an employee, things that I wish I had done differently as an employer, things I wish I had done different as an employee. My attitude wasn't bad towards my coworkers, but my perception of me feeling like I'm stuck here. I don't want to be here. I wish I had a little bit more gratitude. However, the thing that was good about that is that it got me into the game of where I needed to be in life at the same time. So we need to grow where we're planted, but we need to be willing to go and direct it, because that agitation is there for a reason. There's other people that need what you have, and there's a better life. There's a bigger life. I was getting literally sick at my job. I was losing hair. I was losing weight. It was becoming unhealthy for me. So, when we're out of alignment, I think we start experiencing physical changes too.
Was it too stressful, or I mean, were there goals? I mean, you were talented, you were capable. You know, you still are, right? But in that role, you had what you needed. Yeah. So was it goals, like, were they giving you goals that weren't yours, and it was kind of breaking your heart, or what was leading? I didn't like
it. So I can look at it in perspective. There's a couple things, and I talk about this in terms of corporate hazing, in the sense that sometimes when you come in, and look, I can't compare my hazing to probably what you experience in basic training or what you experience in any kind of environment where there's like really a intentional toughening, right? But with women, oftentimes in the workplace, women can be brutal to other women. And I came out, I'm 25 years old. I'm starting at this new law firm, and my mentors that were assigned to me, two in particular were women. One of them just really did not like that I was on The Apprentice, and that I had name recognition that was sent out to all of the firm, because that's not how it works. I'm not supposed to be able to skip steps. I'm not supposed to be able to have media and speaking engagements and all of that when there are lawyers twice my age who don't have any of that. And we had a conversation about how I needed to stay more in my place. I didn't need to network outside of being in lawyer environments. And I'm thinking, I'm an entrepreneur by heart, and I'm thinking, well, if I want to get to partner, if I want to make the big bucks here one day, you got to bring in clients. So the reason I started my sports agency was because I was meeting professional athletes. I tried to bring them to my law firm, and they said I was too young to do that. Now, what's interesting is that when I left and I started my agency, I was representing Teresa Edwards. She's a female basketball player. This is before the WNBA. She was at the time before Lisa Leslie, who played for the Spark, is it? The female version of the Lakers. She is now, but at the time, Teresa was the most decorated female basketball player in the country. And I'm representing Teresa Edwards, and the Atlanta Dream wanted her to do TV color commentary. Well, the Atlanta Dream was new to Atlanta, and they sent over a contract, which I wrote up and rejected. I get a phone call, and I'm like looking at the caller ID at my new office where I have my own sports agency now. And I'm wondering why my law firm is calling me. Well, apparently the Atlanta Dream is represented by my old law firm, and they can't get what they need for their client without calling me. because I represent the marquee player that they need to be able to do the deal with. So I'm pick up the phone. I'm talking to someone who used to be, she was very nice. She was very nice when I was there and everything, but she used to be one of the associates that mentored me at my law firm, and they couldn't get through what they need. And so here I'm told I'm too young to do this, right? How apropos that was my first contentious case where I had to go against an opposing party was against my old law firm. So sometimes we just don't belong in a space. Sometimes you do need to go out and test your own chops. And who knew that here I'm in my first year and I'm going up against one of the biggest law firms in the country. I learned what I was really made of. So yeah, it wasn't that the work was too hard for me. What it was for me, I did not belong there. I had spent the time there that I was supposed to spend there. And I don't do well with doubt. I don't do well in an environment where there's structure and rules and doubt. So I build my own. I just know myself. I just build my own.
Have you watched that series on USA, Suits?
Oh, it's my favorite.
All right, good. So I'm not crazy?
No, not at all. That's my favorite show. I'm like,
is that accurate?
For a law firm, I would say pretty much so. That's why I like it so much. I'm like, yep, that's what it would have been like. But I would have stayed if I had a Harvey Specter as my mentor.
I like him. It's interesting how the show's going to evolve with the main guy leaving and his wife, right? So, but she has to go be a princess or something, right? So Angela has to leave. It's nice when we have somebody like that can come in and pick us and mentor us, and that's why it's so cool. But the one thing it rarely works like that for us as entrepreneurs, where someone picks us, and that's why I believe in. One of the things I talk about in Believing Bigger in this journey of me trying to reinvent my life, figure out how, because I called my wedding off 6 days before my wedding. And I didn't know how I was going to pay my bills because I had closed my sports agency down for this relationship. So I'm finding myself heartbroken. Everybody, just kidding. Let me flip the sign over. Yeah, we're
open. Still open. Now, once you turn a client over, especially a pro athlete client, to another person, it's very hard to say, oh, yeah, just kidding, right? Psych, can we do this over? And I knew I wasn't supposed to go back there, but that's where I reinvented now into the space of coaching and speaking and all of that and doing events. And so in doing that and working with people now, one of the things I've learned is the power of investment. Like, we can go through a tough time in our lives and a tough season. I was not I didn't know what I was going to do, honestly. And I noticed people kept picking my brain about branding. How did you brand the athletes? How did you get because I was also doing commentary myself on ESPN. How did you get on ESPN? How are you on SportsCenter? I finally had the respect of my 2 brothers and my 8 male cousins when they saw me on SportsCenter talking about LeBron James. And this was when he left the Cavs and went to Miami.
Can you get me on? I want to talk Southeastern Conference football. Can you make that happen for me, pretty please?
I think so. The funny thing is, I feel like I'm so out the loop. I'm like, okay. So my brother was really my Cliff Notes. I'm not good at sports. I'm good at business, and I found an industry. So I would pick up the phone. I'm like, Corey, so so-and-so is supposed to be here. Apparently he's a recruit, a new draft. Can you give me the rundown? My brother's a walking freaking encyclopedia of sports knowledge. So he literally is my cheat sheet and has been. And so what I will do with that request, Wes, is I will take that to my brother and say, Corey, so who? And then I'll call a friend. I'm like, okay, here's who we need to hook you up with.
I got this crazy coon ass living in California. He's got to get back to his roots. He needs to be on TV sampling jambalaya and talking about the Blitz. Woo.
The way you say jambalaya provides all the credibility that you need. My family's from the Bayou, from Louisiana. So, yes, that is straight up credibility.
Okay, I want to ask you something that just came up. Yeah. Burning bridges. Mm-hmm. You mentioned, your first deal when you're on your own was this contentious, right, situation with your former employer, Suits, right? They're killing one another, and then the next show they got to partner up on a deal.
Yes.
When do you have any tips on setting aside grudges? People always say, "Oh, it's just business, it's not personal." Personally, I think everything's personal.
Absolutely.
But, sometimes stuff happened. Are you going to be mad at everybody forever? I mean, how do you know when to burn a bridge forever? Versus, well, I'll at least leave the framework up there in case I got to lay some 2x4s to cross this thing again.
So my philosophy is do not cut what you can untie. And a lot of times we want to cut.
Look, we're from the South. I think your grandmother told you that. That sounds like a grandma.
I don't know exactly where it originally came from, but that's my philosophy now.
All right.
From somebody. So do not cut what you can untie. And that has really helped me, because when we say it's not business, it's just personal, we give ourselves basically an excuse to be over emotional on one side or the other. So usually when we cut ties, it's because we're emotional, we're mad about something that we didn't have the emotional or intellectual maturity to figure out how to communicate our frustration for it to get to that point to begin with. Because we didn't have a direct conversation. We didn't have checkpoints. We didn't have accountability. Or we ignored bad behavior from the beginning, and we should have spoken up earlier. But because we didn't, now we're frustrated and we just cut and run. That's on our side. On the other side, sometimes people do things that is out of integrity, or you decide that it's just not a good fit. Maybe there's nothing really wrong. You just want to move forward. And a lot of times when we burn a bridge or we cut as opposed to untie, it's because, again, we don't have the language. We're not sure how to handle it. Or I've learned that some people just really don't have people skills and they don't have integrity. And they just, we've both been in business long enough to have people who quit on us without notice.
Sure.
Well, I have. Sure. I'm older than you.
Don't make me go to Wikipedia. I'll do it.
No, that's not true. Definitely not. But
see this gray stubble? Ooh.
No, the day that I have stubble, we have a problem.
We got a problem.
Sure. So I've had people, and I've just had to not always justify. That's just an integrity problem. It happens. They cut a tie. They burned a bridge with me. You will never get a check from me again. You just won't. And if it would be a bad idea, not that I'm proactively going to do anything about that, but because of the integrity of my company, it would be a bad idea for you to list me as a referral. Now, I've had people who were dumb enough to do that too, right? You acted out of integrity. You were horrible to work with, and you quit without notice. And then you put down, I worked with so-and-so because I'm a good client to have. I have a lot of trust in my audience, and I'm very particular about who. Most people who do work for us that are vendors sign confidentiality agreements, because I want to know before you go out and we give you the permission to advertise that we're a client, that we've had a good working relationship as well. That's just something I've implemented over time to protect my own brand. Because everyone out there saying this is my client, and that's not
right. They
were a transaction.
Yeah.
So being very clear, when someone posts that I was a client of theirs, then I want that to be that because I know my word carries weight with the people that I've built trust with.
Right.
So, I try to make sure to answer your question. I was having a few flashbacks of people who quit and just realizing, and we talked about it at this mastermind meeting I'm leading downstairs earlier today. I said, look, if you're going to put down somebody as someone that you did work for, make sure that when someone calls to verify your work, that you can cash that check with your reputation.
Right.
And I don't want to create, and I just to learn not to take it. When I say don't take it personal, don't be emotional about somebody else's dysfunction.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Focus in on what you want to build and what you want to establish, because whatever you focus on grows, you fuel it. And you'll make dumb decisions because you're frustrated, and you'll call it justified. Well, I should be able to do this because they did that. And you're stepping out of the energy, out of the frequency of being able to think strategically and move on, because maybe they just needed to get out of the way so you have the next best person step into that space.
Mm-hmm.
So trying not to take it, I try not to take it personal. I've not been great at that. There are people that I've hired that have been friends, like close friends, and didn't work out in a way that was out of integrity.
Right.
I asked myself as a boss, what did I do to allow that to get to this point? You have to do some self-reflection. It's still personal development. So it is personal and it is business and it's all together. And the best thing we can do is try not to make it emotional and try to move on. Don't cut if you don't have to. Untie if you can. But if you need to cut, snip, snip, snip.
All right. This might be the last question, but I'm infamous for like asking 12 more. But, you know, maybe this might be the last.
Okay, I'll try to keep them shorter because I'm infamous for long answers.
How do you overcome imposter syndrome?
Wow. So in chapter 3 of Believe Bigger, I write about this battle between little me and future me. Little me is the part of you that feels like you're not good enough and that whispers that you don't have enough. There isn't enough. It's the voice of lack. It's actually, in the sales context, Wes, this is the voice that we're dealing with the person we're trying to sell something to or help. I would just call it helping them. In business, we call it sales. But their little me voice those are all the objections we're dealing with. It's their version, their little me of whatever it is. So when we have our own little me, it's based off of, usually it gets ingrained to us. It's an inner tape that starts early on in stage 1 of the purpose map, the rules, the do's and don'ts, what I shouldn't do, or you made a mistake. I remember one of the most embarrassing, difficult days I had as a kid. I was 8 years old. I got in trouble for stealing and I hadn't really stolen. I just put this stuff in my bag, but it was a dare from Justin at recess in the 3rd grade. And before I could take the stuff out, because I just wanted to show, I don't care, I'll do that, whatever. All the kids come back into class. And then I was like, okay, what do we do now? And people started noticing stuff was missing. And guess who turned me in? Justin, the same kid who did the dare. And I remember having to go home and face my parents that night and feeling deep. I did not even get in trouble. The shame was enough. The embarrassment to my family was enough. My dad said, we will always love you and go to bat for you. My parents were at the school a lot because my brother and I were 2 of 5 Black kids that were in the whole school. So they were always up there trying to make sure we were treated fair. It was kind of like integration environment-wise. So that didn't also help for now having this label of being a thief to go along with all those dynamics. And he said, we will always fight for you. We'll always stand up for you as long as you tell the truth. But it'll be very hard to advocate on your side if people look at you like a thief. I shrank. That was the first time I felt small. And so with that, I learned I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to ever step out of line. I overcompensated into becoming what I call a success addict, where I wanted to get good grades. I didn't want to ever disappoint my family, all of that. So for me, that's where my little me came in. For others of us, we have that imposter syndrome. It's just, where did it start? Like, when did it start for you? What was the experience? And you got to face it to fix it. So that's how you overcome it. That's how you deal with the imposter syndrome. You could say it's positive self-talk, but I think that it's hard to speak to something that you don't really realize is there. And so looking at where it came from, where it started for you. And then that way, when you're facing it, it's a little easier for you to catch it. And then it becomes a practice of, then you can do the self-talk, because now you know what, this is just a little side of me. Future me is saying, go after that, go for it. Or yeah, maybe I haven't done it before, but LeBron hadn't made his first dunk in the NBA until he made his first dunk in the NBA. He didn't dunk the first time as a kid until he dunked the first time as a kid. So you have to start with you learn to talk to yourself like the future version of you would talk to you to get you off the bench and into the game. That's what future me does. Future me pulls you in. But I also say, for me, I look at it spiritually. I always say, you know what? God speaks in cans and not in can'ts. So if anything says that I can't do it, it's probably little me. It's probably not future version of me. This is not going to help me. And I couldn't do it anyway. If I don't do it, I'm not going to step into my future. So I might as well, or else I just stay where I'm at. So that's kind of how I deal with it.
Is it safe to say that people would be shocked if they could see behind the curtains of the Miss America pageant or The Apprentice or anything that seems super glamorous and well put together on the outside?
In what way? There's a lot of things you'd be shocked about. Some of the stuff I'm sworn to secrecy, especially what you see behind the scenes.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, I think that's where the imposter syndrome comes from, right? They're like, oh, look at everybody. They're so put together at the boardroom, at the negotiation table. Everybody's so glam. They look so pretty walking on the stage. I can never be that glamorous and that elegant and that sharp and that eloquent and witty at the conference table. But it's like, people, there were 17 takes before they got it right.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's not, and I think that's where the imposter syndrome comes from. Everything looks perfect. Everybody's pretty. Everybody's well-groomed. Nobody stutters. Nobody says and nobody's looking. You know, they're not at a loss for words.
Yeah.
And
now social media makes it worse because now everybody's family is perfect. Everyone's on vacations. It seems because everyone posts airbrush perfect pictures that you could take 1,000 before you pick the one you wanted to post. But also, the reality is that there's preparation that is required. And one of the blessing blockers, I talk about these 7 blessing blockers that keep you out of shifting into your assignment and your mission and your master purpose in life and in your business. One of them is comparison. Another is perfectionism. And where do all of these come back to? The little me voice that says, I'm not enough, I don't have enough, there isn't enough. One of those 3 things. And so where does that get exacerbated? When you start looking at everybody else who seems to have more than enough, but you don't know the backstory. And you don't see any athlete that steps on the field and wins a championship that woke up like that. You don't see an entrepreneur who woke up like that. Some kids may have the fortune of being able to wake up and not have to have struggle in their life because their parents worked hard or because wealth was passed down. There's nothing wrong with that. But most people, but you want them to develop the grit so that they can maintain it when their parents are gone, right? So there is a backstory. And I struggle with this. This is one of the things I've learned in terms of marketing is you can't market yourself as the hero. You really have to market yourself as the mentor, right? This is part of the hero's journey. And because people would look at me, especially my clients, and there was a disconnect. They're like, yeah, well, you've been in Miss America, you've been on The Apprentice, and you are a lawyer, and you did go to Georgetown. And then I would come across as a walking resume. And so if my target audience respects me, but they don't relate to me, then I've wasted my breath. Relatability is more important than respect. Relatability, and of course, you don't want to be unrespected, but I think sometimes we get so caught up in wanting to be impressive that we lose the ability to invite people into a transformation for them. I don't believe in watering down your greatness. So I have some friends who say, I have a good friend of mine, he's on television. He says, I don't even tell people I went to Georgetown for B school, for business school. And I'm like, I'm not doing that because I feel like that's a blessing. That's a part of my journey. So, but instead, what I will do, as opposed to just telling a bunch of successes, I'll be the businesswoman who will be honest and say, you know what? The way I discovered how I was going to reinvent my business and change my income was that I took some time off. I did personal development. I did spiritual development. Why? Because I got cheated on, and that disrupted my business and my life. And I didn't want to tell this story. Certainly didn't want to write it. Didn't know that it would be a book being published by Simon & Schuster, one of the largest but just publishers out there. I didn't want to do all of that. But I believe in transparency, and I've learned that transparency is the key to your prosperity in business. And especially for me, having an audience of women. But I think that's why people like you too, Wes, is that you use your authentic voice. You don't talk how you think people want, with what they want to say or what they want to hear. And there's a huge gap in business right now for people who are willing to use, get this, honesty in marketing, not just factual honesty, but holistic honesty about the reality of what it takes to be successful, the ish that we will go through, the mindset changes that we have to have, and to do it in our own authentic way with our own personality, or with you, the way that you say jambalaya.
Jambalaya, crawfish pie, filet gumbo. All right, I'm going to start singing. That's when the show is over. What do they say? It's not when the fat lady sings, it's when Wes sings. When Wes starts singing, the show's over. So where do we send people? Your book is coming out. This podcast is going to come out very quickly. So we'll be a couple of weeks before your book comes out, which is March 13th, right?
Yes, March 13th, Women's History Month. 13th is the day of rebellion, so we want to get the rebellion started.
Woo! All right.
Yep, so you can go to BelieveBigger.com, and we have tons of bundles. Now, the book is available everywhere books are sold, Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, Amazon. But at BelieveBigger.com, we have some bundles that we've created, which are discounted, and also some amazing bonuses. So I love vision boards. I believe that whenever you've gone through something, that getting a new vision, a greater vision that's bigger than your circumstances is the way out. And so I had a little vision board that I created when I called my wedding off and I was trying to reinvent my life. And I had this idea of starting a coach. I didn't even want to do a coaching program at the time. I just wanted to do an event. And I put it on a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. I sketched it out in pencil. And I kept it on my desk for 3 years as I built this company, and I saw it every day, day in and day out. So I wanted to talk about the principles of vision and a vision board, and that takes place on March the 5th. If you pre-order the book, you'll get to go through that vision board workshop with me, and I'll show you how to do a vision board different than any that are out there. And if you do other bundles, there's some other resources, and you can learn all about those at BelieveBigger.com.
All right. And then we'll link to your Instagram because I get to watch you with your shoes. I think, was it you that had long eyelashes so you pulled your glasses down? Was that you?
Yes, because you can't wear your glasses and your eyelashes at the same time. That's why they invented contact lenses. You think it was so that you could see better. It was because those of us who have lashes can't wear glasses.
You just need to make a style, right, where the glasses on the nose like come way out so the glasses, but then they got to change the depth. I don't know. It's tough.
It's tough.
I know. Don't hate me because I'm beautiful.
I won't. Hey, will you tell your wife, your amazing wife, and your whole tribe? I haven't got to meet all your kiddos yet, but I have gotten to meet your wonderful wife. Will you tell her hello for me, please?
I will. Well, come on out to Cali, and you can meet most of them. Well, come this summer. Jake's traveling for college, so I'm actually going to go see him in India in 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks.
Cool.
So I saw him in Buenos Aires back in May. Then I'm going to see him in London. Then I'm going to see him in Taiwan. So
nice.
I've tried to follow him. I've missed a couple cities, but
nice. And thank you for the work you did in Houston.
Oh yeah, my pleasure.
That was awesome.
Had to go home, help the people.
You gave us an opportunity to be a part of it. So I appreciate you. See, that's the whole thing about the transparency part is that I trust you in business because I trust you in life. So it's both. Mm-hmm. It's both. It goes together.
Thank you very much. I trust you, Marshawn Evans Daniels. Go rock that VIP group you have. I look forward to seeing you soon.
All right. Thank you, friend.
Have a great day.
Bye.
So how transparent are you? You know, I've been listening to Dr. Jordan Peterson a lot lately. If you haven't heard of the guy, look him up. He is a psychotherapist out of Canada. He's a professor, an instructor at the University of Toronto. The guy has really burst on the scene. He's had a lot of content out there for at least 7 years, I've found on YouTube and other places. But he doesn't pull any punches. He's not a provocateur, as some would say. He just answers things honestly, and he asks tough questions. But I've been listening to him, and he was talking about how where good and evil come from, the meaning of life. I mean, it gets into crazy, deep things, right? Talking about being virtuous. But he talks about the stories in the Bible. Where do those come from? How does that relate? How do they evolve? How do they impact us? But along the lines of being good and evil and understanding ourselves, he says, talking about Genesis and Adam and Eve, and as soon as they ate the apple, they could see, right? They saw differently. They saw that they were naked. They covered, they hid behind a bush because they knew they were vulnerable at that point. And so he talks about how when people have dreams, that they are afraid that they're on stage and they're naked. He talks about how that, being vulnerable, we cover up. He says people, even on stage, when they're speaking, they don't really give of themselves. And that's where I'm getting to. Talking about transparency. We don't give. We hold back so much. And the interesting thing is our prospects, our clients, the people we want to help and help even more, they know that deep down. We know it intuitively when somebody isn't quite doing the right things. Because we know deep down, when things don't jive, when they're not congruent, we just know. And the thing is, unless you're just a true psychopath, you can't fake it forever. You're going to get caught in the lie. Like they say, you don't need a good memory if you tell the truth. Now, on the flip side of that, I think there's too many people being too transparent. I don't need to know every single thing about you in order to buy from you. I mean, there's a lot of people emoting, I would say, too much out there. But you can be honest about the struggles, the things you're working on, your wins, your losses, without getting into every little thing in your life. So mix in a little stoicism as well, right? I'm reading some of that. So I've got a couple of books from the Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, guys like that, Seneca, that I've been going through. I got too many things that I'm reading. I know, I've got a problem. There, I'm being transparent. You happy? But go back and listen to this. Marshawn, find her, follow her. She's honest. She's sweet. She's optimistic. She's hopeful. She's doing great work. And so if you're looking for somebody, a faith-filled leader, you need to check her out. All right. Like I said, she's doing great things. I obviously sprinkle my faith in the things that I do. Check out the Make Every Sale program. There's my dog barking. I don't know if you can hear that. The Make Every Sale program and the new Inner Circle. The Inner Circle is really what the Make Every Sale program was, but I get into a lot more things. So now the Make Every Sale course is going to be just an on-demand content at a lower price. But then if you want to engage with me weekly, if you want to ask questions in the group and get answers daily, then that's the Inner Circle. All right? So go check that out, makeeverysale.com. As always, thanks for listening. Now go sell something.